What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to go over some analysis, formulate some plans using the Woodsbot tools and automations, locating some levels on the indicator, seeing what's played out. Let's hop right into it. We did expect a deviation above this rising channel here. I for sure had plans for an intraday switch of opinion and bias, but I've canceled that for now. We did fill where my order would have been filled, and things don't look great on lower time frame. We're gonna get into that, but right now we are testing a one-day level of demand. You can't just sideline your eyesight on what the charts are telling you. This one-day candle that pushed price upwards and then planted the demand candle right here that we are now testing, formulated off of a sweep initially to the downside before pushing back up. So this low is, kind of tight. So that's why I removed my bid. I have a reasoning for that. So this was my plan. So for the 64.7 level, I had my invalidation right here. And that's the first wick, right? That's expecting like this to hold with this wick first. As well. So that's why I put the invalidation there, that if we were to sweep this wick, we would then hold this wick. But in my opinion, I think that both of those can be tested, and for which case I've set my limit at the 63.7 level that we wanted initially. Remember when, and for those that weren't on stream, when we called for a sweep of that weekend price action, we called for a sweep right here. We were grinding up, just chopping up very slowly over the weekend before Sunday then closed, and we called for a sweep of this liquidity, right? You had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This liquidity, I called for a sweep. All we really did was swept that low, come back above, print some demand, and print a higher low into a higher high that then took us back upwards. I did not want to short early, right? I did not take a long there as well. I only took a long on Zcash, of which it chopped around a little bit. I was in some profit, and now the price is actually lower on Zcash than it was where we were longing over here, which is incredible because price hasn't even swept that level yet. That being said, this is a potential level for a bounce. We put that in our initial opinion and our perspective since early week. So there is a potential that we do make a lower high. Maybe we retest the open. I don't think we should get that high. And that being said, I'm going to kind of stick to my opinion here and my bias that I've been sticking to all day. I don't want to finish up, switch up here, even though I did speak to my boy Native just a second ago. And, he's convicted in a hold here, but he has plans for whatever kind of happens. So let me hear your perspective, Dal. If anybody wants to talk to me in chat, I'm going to be here typing up.
I feel like me and you were kind of screaming at the top of the mountain to stay and have conviction with your short bias. And I kind of want to go through, the reasoning why I was short, just the reflection of analyzing USDTD and then kind of time stamping everything and just kind of showing you my general analysis, guys, of, like I said, the reasoning for my bias. You saw Woods, he has, a select channel that he's been watching on BTC, and he's shorted the top of that channel. So obviously, there is resistance at certain areas, but let's take a look at BTC first and foremost. So obviously I've been analyzing USDT a lot, same with Woods. That's what's the main driver for how I come up with my bias, as well as other confluences, of course, but first and foremost, always on USDTD. So let's take a look at USDTD, talk about the reasoning why I was looking for shorts rather than longs down here. So first of all, if you guys have been paying attention to my section or even my Twitter, I've been pretty vocal about my bias, and I want to make it known to the reasoning why I have a bias and why I'm either longing or shorting. But basically just off of TA, like, we're at a major support zone on USDTD. Obviously we're making a little bit of a downtrend in market structure, but overall we were at support, and then on top of that we were also seeing bullish divergences on USDTD. So and inversely, if you're seeing bullish divergences on USDTD, then you're going to be seeing bearish divergences across the market on altcoins and majors. So yeah, here you can see some lower time frame bullish divergences. The main execution point was this 15-minute divergence right around here. as well as there was a 30-minute bullish divergence on USDTD. And then again, if you look at the charts, if you're flicking back and forth between USDTD and BTC, inversely, you're starting to see the bearish divergences start to play out on BTC. We were just seeing like bearish divergences at resistance. So with the combination of USDTD at support and then BTC at resistance, it just made sense for us to kind of start piling into shorts. And that's exactly what we did. It's the hard part about current price action is it's just taking forever. It's not an instant type of gratification market right now. Like your bias will take days to form and days to play out, but you can see that once we tapped into the 4-hour and weekly resistance and starting getting those closures under it, our shorts ended up paying out. I know you're short on BTC Woods right now, I'm short on ETH, but forming that analysis and bias and then kind of just sticking to it is the name of the game right now. But yeah, too, the other thing is like we're short ETH here, right? We start seeing that 4-hour bearish divergence. You start seeing 15-minute and 30-minute bearish divergences on here. And again, we just kind of keep tapping into it. And it's been a noisy market, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot of people have different biases. It's not like, 4 or 5 of the respected traders, have the same bias right now. It's a lot of noise. With ETH, we are coming into a support area right now, as you can see on the 4-hour Woodsbot levels. And we're also getting very oversold on the 30-minute. So that's where I'm taking my first take profit point. We also have trend continuation. You want to see this meme line hold at support. But again, like Wood said, it's not looking the best right now. Things are looking kind of rough. And if we start getting acceptance under this 4-hour support, then we're going to go down to the 200 EMA around that 1807 mark. Also, when I pull up heat maps, like we have some solid bids set at 1817. So roughly right here, where you're seeing that support area on the Woodsbot level. So again, that's where I'm kind of targeting for a full take profit around there. But I'm also, I'm taking some off here just in case. The weekend's coming up. You don't really know what's going to happen. There could be bullish news. But again, it's all about anticipating everything and making sure that you're sticking with your bias more than anything.
Really good E-short, by the way. We had our levels for BTC. We executed accordingly. Alts got wrecked from that exact moment. So when it comes to the lower time frame aspect of things, I mean, it's like each and every time, like we're in a range until proven otherwise. And in areas of extreme is where we're going to see these confluences align accordingly. And there is a liquidity aspect in every trade you take, especially over the summer where there's no volume. So naturally speaking, places of liquidity and places that push price either up or down to new legs is where you're going to naturally see a range form. So after we break out of this range that we anticipated to break to the upside, which was absolutely beautiful, you then saw price come back up. And this is also another reason why I say a level is just a level, because you don't have to be super precise with every single area you draw, unless you're looking for like a specific sweep. Let's say like I wanted to be alert at this specific sweep right there. You would draw a line on that sweep, put an alert on that sweep, and then you're alerted to see what price does at the level. But to draw a range, it's not rocket science. You see an area of which price was held, right? And then it pushed up into, and then it rejected. And then it looks to chop around that level, preferably after a move up or down, right? That has happened and occurred. A new leg, right? It could be within a range, right? Because there's going to be these smaller ranges that occur. And if you're not catching plays within these ranges of extremities, you're missing out on the move. You don't really want to be a trader in this uptrend unless you're anticipating upside in a break of a range, which is also a really good trade you could take, right? A snap and a break of the highs is always a good trade, but sometimes it's not good on the first go. It might not be good on the second go. It might move back down, take you out, and then move back up, and then it might be good on the third go. You have to be consistent in your approach to trading. So try not to flip-flop around too many aspects of the game. That's why I like to be patient. If I'm on a streak and then I take a loss, I know it's for a reason. So I don't like to let those losses compound. And sometimes I'll go 2 losses and then 3 losses. That's not what I like to do. I like to be patient in my approach throughout. And there's one thing happening that we saw previous, except it's happening a little bit higher. So we had a range form clearly, tried to break out, deviated back in, which is kind of the example I was talking about. That could have been a possible scenario here where it deviated it, came back down, and then pushed up off higher low. That's happening right here, and it's happening in a range higher than it was here. So price was lower, demand was lower, obviously, until we printed a weekly divergence in price right here, right? So you had more confidence and confluence at the extremity of the range than you do up here. So you got to be a lot more cautious with the way you're entering longs here, because anything is really possible. And when it comes to liquidity, this is my favorite aspect of trading here. This is why I put the limit as well yesterday at 64.7. I knew that was coming. I just felt it. I'm in a short. I canceled that plan right now. I'm still watching. But there's another reason why I took that. It was in daily demand. It's in daily demand, clearly. We have a Woodsbot level there. That's naturally a level that we're looking to hold, obviously. But all that to say, we're now at the halfway point of where that swept occurred from the weekend that started early week that I called out and I didn't act upon, and the most recent high that we printed at 66.9K. This is the median zone now that we've slipped under, right? This is 4-hour demand that people, entered in on yesterday. They profited a little bit. And then it came back down and it ended up flipping that level to the downside, which was also a level right here in the indicator, right? You guys know, and those who have been following around my analysis, Big Dow's analysis, Crypto Native analysis, Gatal, anyone else using the indicator and the levels, we follow the process accordingly. We begin to close with weakness. We look at, the lower time frame. Remember, the confluence zones go from 4-hour and up. So if you're under the 4-hour, which we're going to do right now, you're going to then see things happen on the lower time frame here at that exact zone that we're looking to hold that can give you conviction to enter a trade following momentum. When you see grinding lower highs here into that 4-hour demand that we just spoke about, right? This level here, you begin to see 1-hour candles look to lose and close below that level. Let's call a spade, and then move down even to like the 30-minute and the 15-minute and see what was happening on there, how heavy candles looked. And not only are we doing that, but we're also going to just pull up the RSI and see what exactly was happening to price there, and if it even reached oversold territory for us to even take a play on the lower time frame. We had those lower time frame confluences pile up yesterday, right? We saw that 15-minute clear divergence in price happen right at the tap of oversold territory. We pushed up off that, took those highs, came back in, tried to print the higher low and push back up, printed that lower high here, came back into the zone that we were able to hold. We tried to hold that higher low on the other side and we didn't. Fell flat through that, rejected the 50 with a lower high in price after taking the high. These are reads you got to be realizing as a trader using a specific confluence that make you say, all right, the direction is probably to the downside. I could probably put my invalidation above that high and capitalize on a pretty good short opportunity, assuming that this 15-minute level of demand that did not test is going to be the next logical level where price is going to consolidate tight around intraday before it makes a reaction. And that's where we're under now. That's where it has to be reclaimed for us to then push up here. These are tight moves that we're explaining, guys. That's why reacting on every little candle, intraday lower time frame, it's so not the way that you should be maneuvering right now. Do that at areas of extremes. Areas of extremes, you're going to see your confluences pile up. Like when we pushed into this low here last July 17th, a week ago, right before the weekend, right? We pushed up off a high, a higher low here, into a high, which piled, that's the exact level that we shorted initially. Remember, we shorted this level above this high where people that are looking for a breakout were longing. It's not a bad position either way you look at it if you have your reasonings for entry. All that being said, is that my boy Dev? Good to see you, bro. Killing shit, bro. And Morrissey too, my boys. So on the hourly, we began to print, this drive pattern up, this rising sort of channel, and we lost it, right? But what was happening at the range flip is what matters. On the higher time frame, right? And I'm talking higher time frame. That's the hourly time frame. We're approaching oversold territory. And as we're making higher highs, we're also making a lower high. That's something to note. Intraday execution matters. We have this hourly level of demand that price is going to push into and try to hold. But at the top here, we see the 30-minute begin to get oversold again with those divergences that we were just talking about on the bear side. We then pushed into that demand level on the hourly that we just talked about, and we, approached that oversold territory, held for a little bounce, and pushed a lower high out the zone that we were trying to consolidate. So what does that mean? You flick back to the hourly and you start to think to yourself, are we going to accept right back within the range? That's what you did. That's exactly what happened in price. And even though you got confluences on both sides of the token, you're able to execute a range accordingly. Play the lows to the highs, scalp the way you're supposed to, but anticipate a break in either direction. And that's going to happen. That's what's going to happen from this higher low, which is exactly the point we pushed. That's the point we talked about. And I'm going to open up the higher time frame in just a second. This 62A level is very important. This is a level that we've been anticipating for a long time. But this is a level where you're naturally going to get a higher low flip from. And what do I mean by that? I talked about where we're at right now. That's a median, right? We were at a median on this higher low, meaning that people took shorts, people took longs. One side is going to break. People are taking shorts here, just like people are taking longs here with their invalidation either above the high or below the low. And with all that being said, we had 30-minute divergences pile up even stronger than the divergences we talked about here, right? Stronger as in it printed them and they held. And they reacted right off of that, right? It's a lot more confidence when you have multiple divergences, but when you have a powerful hold at a higher low, at a higher time frame pivot that we were talking about for a median, you could at least scalp towards the highs and anticipate this push, right? If you're in Woodsbot and you have access, the limit order gave a beautiful fucking snipe for that. I gave that to you guys there. It was a beautiful snipe. And I react off of those levels too. It filled that entry beautifully. Not only did it fill, but it's printing those exact confluences that we're talking about right now. When you see a strong push off of that hourly RSI like that, that's a strong RSI divergence there that pushed up right away. These are things, again, that they're not always going to work out. It might have pushed a little bit lower than expected. And I did not have my limit up for that. I had the limit up for that after. But that is the pivot we were talking about. And why was that the pivot we were talking about? Why? 62.8 is right here, right? This is the level that we've been talking about for some time. That's the median end of the most recent range that we're trading in. And we were able to predict that just off of this candle closure. Price came into this range, held dramatically, came back into it, and it held that candle closure. We lost that candle closure on this drop that we had in the beginning of the summer, way back in June, and we chopped around that level, attempting flips, flipping it, losing it, chopping it, printing higher lows up into it, and retesting it. But that lower time frame price action would have made you flip short or long, right? But remember, there's going to be a median that tests, and just like I was talking about that median, we have this most recent median that we're trading in right now. There's going to be a move that happens from here. Is it the highs going to get taken out, or is it the lows that's going to get taken out? That's what you have to distinguish your next opinion on. Big Dalio, you have any reflections on BTC? Any gems or insights you want to do before we look at some alts?
Yeah, I think the best way to anticipate if we're going to break out of, range highs or we're going to break down from range lows is really just looking at the RSI momentum. That was an easy signal for all of us to kind of get into more of a short bias, just due to the fact that we are so extremely oversold on so many time frames at the top there. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I went short, is just due to the RSI being so oversold, BTC being so overbought, and then USDT being so oversold. I mean, that's a picture perfect signal to help you guide where is momentum going. Is it to the downside or is it to the upside? And the RSI was flagging that it was going to the downside. But now where do you think we're headed next? I'm personally looking at 63.4. I want to start getting in a position there if we go that deep. I think that's a prime position to get into longs.
That's the level I'm looking for. I'm looking for a push into that level. I had two scenarios drawn. This is the one that I had originally. That's why I feel like we could bounce. And if we do bounce, you can take a bearish retest short at the Woodsbot level. We talked about that in the last video. We talked about that in previous video. We talked about it last week. It's like if we lose a level, anticipate a retest into it, and you might get a good enough entry for you to ride a short for some sweeps. Have a target and anticipate that direction. Hype even, we talked about that as well. Like I had the perfect fucking bias. If you're in the WB chat, you know SB. I know you saw that shit, man. Like we anticipated 53.54 as just a perfect short level for hype. It pushed up into that level and rejected right away. I wasn't looking at this direct structure loss and retest, but yeah, that's one. In the other, there's going to be plenty more conflicts we have to look at after all that stuff. I still think that hype could hold these levels, push up into this, and create another lower high where it'll look to print a potential reversal pattern and then actually lose that reversal pattern and move a little bit lower. Maybe not. It could potentially just hold this and move up from there. But I'm looking at a few opinions on hype, and I don't hate where I see it. I know a lot of people want to see much lower, but we're approaching some levels that I feel like are worth entertaining. And I'm just being a little patient on hype. Even though I wanted, I should have took that short in hindsight. It is what it is. Like, you don't have to be in every play. And we're getting an SOL alert that we swept the Monday lows. So let me take a look at SOL as well. And if you guys want me to take a look at any other alts or anything like that, I will. But I have some limits posted. I don't want to be too sporadic.
I still think that we have room to move down. I mean, I think we're kind of in the middle, especially when I look at the 4-hour RSI. Like, we're not oversold. That's one of the main indicators that I'm looking at right now, is like the fact that we're not oversold is kind of in a no trade zone for me. But SOL is at like support. RSI is oversold on the 30 on lower time frames.
For SOL, we are sweeping the Monday low. That is a fact. We did break out of this trend. So the trend is your friend, and the trend is telling you that this potential sweep can be a means for an entry. That being said, we do have a good level right down below that, so you don't want to be an early buyer if we do want to retest this level. The problem is if we do retest that level, we have this low right here that could potentially sweep as well. The moves have been tight for SOL relative to other alts, but again, like that's what you're preaching as well. I mean, patience in positions pays, and right now the trend is your friend, and the trend has been ranging price action, but that ranging price action breaks with time, with patience. So we'll take a look at near. We had two really good opinions on it. We had a long, right? We had a nice long off that. Quality over quantity. We had a long, anticipated this. Remember, ranges, man. It doesn't get like, this is such an easy concept to understand. And these ranges are going to occur either on support or at resistance. And in this case, it was right over support, right? And that's what we anticipated. We anticipated that support level to hold. This range broke and we caught a nice long. I didn't ride it all the way, but we caught a nice long. We also anticipated this short. We had like a few percent on it. We closed it break even. It came back up. I never re-executed that short. With my anticipation on BTC, don't you think that this would have been a great short to take? Yes, but I was more focused on BTC. And now that we're looking at from a liquidity perspective, you can see how it has swept these lows down here, and these lows were able to take it to its most recent highs. This area that I was looking for longs, this was my invalidation. We've now swept and deviated that exact area of liquidity that I was looking for as my invalidation previous. Don't you think that people tried that same long here and took L's on that, or had their invalidation under that, or whatever the case may be, and now they're looking at the trade and say, now I'm in a loss? Maybe this could be a good entry for you on near as well for a scalp if we do hold for 64.8 to 65.6 like I was anticipating before. That is a possibility, right into the Woodsbot levels before I move down. That could potentially be a good scalp because alts get hit naturally harder than BTC does. So wouldn't that make you think as a trader that maybe I could catch a good scalp on an alt, right? I mean, it's logical.
I'm definitely in the camp right now that I do think that longs breathe a little bit. I don't think they're going to breathe as much as shorts could possibly breathe. So, but as you can see, like we're coming up to resistance level. We're at the 8.38 percentile and then 8.43 just above. And we are printing some bearish divergences, and momentum is starting to shift to the downside. The one thing that I'm so super skeptical of is the fact that on the 4-hour RSI, we're flipping the 50 mark, which is usually an indicator that momentum is still to the upside, meaning that inversely, since it's USDTD chart, that momentum is to the downside.
I also wanted to add that really quick. I just want to add to that too. Woodsbot put out a limit long at 64,545 pretty aggressively. It has a loose invalidation, but if you guys know the limit bot, when it projects something tight like that, it's a sign. I think we are going to go into the 63 region, but just wanted to point that out. I'm going to post the alert that we got there here for you guys.
Yeah, like, even before we were talking about it, like 64, it was looking at 64.5. I'm looking at 64.3. I mean, we have really nice bids stacking up on heat maps there too. So again, you can see that I have alerts like pretty much at every immediate level. But let's go back to the USDTD. So again, we are at resistance here. Intraday trend is down. We're getting lower lows and lower highs. The big thing is that I'm watching is, trend. Is once we start getting into that 8.43 level, is watching the RSI and seeing if momentum is going to break to the upside, meaning that shorts are going to pay even more, or we're starting to get bearish divergences, bearish momentum at that trend retest. So these are the things that I'm watching. Is like, if we break out from there, we're going to go to 8.63, which is another high confluence zone that I'll be looking to long the market once we tap, or we just continue to trend up at 8.8 and then further. So that's the short bias. For longs, if we come back down, retest 8.270, this high confluence zone here, if momentum is more geared to the downside, and if we break this level, if we break this high time frame daily and 3-day support level, I do believe that like a massive trend shift is happening, and then longs are going to cook for a while. You can see too, like on the higher time frame, that if we break this level, there's massive gaps that need to be filled. There's really isn't a lot of support pile up around these levels. So those are two scenarios that I'm watching. Is really like, long side, and then also short side, and just kind of rolling with the punches and seeing what happens. Right now, I'm more geared between short side. I think shorts are going to pay. Intraday, I think longs breathe a little bit, but overall high time frame bias, I think, again, shorts are just going to breathe until we start getting into those overbought areas on the RSI right here, and then down here in the oversold regions. I really, really hate playing in the middle. Like, if we aren't oversold or overbought on the 4-hour RSI, I don't really fuck with taking positions in between, just because anything can really happen. I have way better edges on the 4-hour in extremes.
I agree. I think shorts here look good. I mean, even like total 3 just gets obliterated, on every move, every rejection. Down. AVE has been very, very strong. I think AVE is a coin that people should have. If you were on stream, we played a nice little scalp from it, just trying to catch some upside. But it's already reversed that. Strong. You got to take note to the strong coins, because whenever you do feel the lows are in for BTC and the highs are in for USDT.D, you could make a good play on these alts, especially tying in some SFPs, divergences, combo divs preferably. There's a lot of good signs you're going to see at the lows. Granted, a lot of times the lows are going to look horrible, so you may not see those signs, or you might see the signs and you might just not even care about it because it looks that horrible. But there's a lot of opportunity approaching. I agree with you on that Tau read as well, Nima. It's just in a very compressed range, and I think eventually this range is going to cascade either up or down, preferably towards 183.40. I think that would be a phenomenal position for Tau. If it moves up into 205, I think that's a great short opportunity, just off of how tight liquidity has been. And if, again, we're just drawing ranges, like we're just drawing tight ranges, take whatever most recent high that makes sense and the most recent low that makes sense, preferably in the last week, and you'll see a good grasp of things. That's why I think that if you perfect the Monday range, you can really begin to navigate other ranges of consolidation that make sense for you to play in extremities. What's up, Hockey? Good to see you here, brother. It's an afternoon stream. Love to see that. So, there's a time to catch a knife, up or down. But there's also times to play ranges. And, I mean, even Pocky hopping in here, like, he knows how it is. You guys know, like, how it is. Like, we love to play extremities of ranges. And we know when and when not to play the middling end of a range. And that's the only position that you really want to be taking, because you'll get caught in an upside lick or a downside lick, of which you could be prepared for other great positions. The lower we go, the more RR you get. the higher you go, the more you get to short right now. Granted, you got to do it at the right time. That's why I like to anticipate a deviation on a short lately. And on support, I like to just play support as is. But, it changes. Yo, Dad, you got a question from Curb.
Yeah, Kirby asked, do you tend to hold your short till 4-hour RSIs over sold or vice versa, since you base your trades off of the 4-hour charts a lot? No, I don't particularly, like, obviously I look at everything just to get more information on analysis. I typically just use support regions, Fibonacci, levels as well to, like let's say if I'm in a short right now, I'm basically targeting support zones as my take profits. But lately, what I've been doing is I've been looking at heat maps a lot more for my trades on majors, because I would like to target where those bids are, those stacked bids are. So for instance, like this trade is already playing out, but we are coming into a decent support level. We have 30-minute bullish divergence that look like they could possibly form on the 30, as well as the 5-minute. You can see that we're getting flagged here. But again, when I look at the heat maps, it's telling me that bids are stacked at 1818. And as you can see, where I indicated earlier is that we have support area right down there, as well as the 200 EMA. So confluences are telling me that, yes, I think that we're going to go down to 1807, 1818, where I want to take all of my profit off. But on the long side of things, we are at resistance on USDTD. We are seeing 30-minute bullish divergences setting up here. The weekend's coming up. So I'm going to take some off. So it's not just I'm looking at the RSI strictly. Lately, like I said, I've been using more heat maps than anything to take majority of my profit off. But, you just got to, you got to do what's best for you. And I think that, we're already at like a 1.2R here. I'm happy with, taking some off the table.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been enjoying a lot of the work a lot of you guys have been putting in a lot of these channels, like Fundamentals Popping, WB Chat. I know a lot of you guys are in Pocky's corners as well. Like things like this is what's going to keep the community growing. You're going to keep leveling up. There's going to be a good time this market comes and you're going to snap. So let's say Bitcoin were to move off this demand level that we were bidding, and it moves, and obviously we're not bidding right now, we're in a short from up here or whatever the case may be, but let's say it moves up from here like this, yeah, like that, and let's say you aren't in a position. Remember that like there's going to be either accumulation or distribution most likely happening from this level, and obviously it might not get drawn out like that, but you understand what I'm saying. And eventually one side is going to react, and you can play it as such. So don't feel like you miss out on an opportunity just because you miss a giant move. And I'm talking about this as a giant move, like 64 to 72. There's another 8K from the lows. We caught a giant move here. We caught 58K to 64K. You do the math. I mean, 6K, I ended up closing all the way there, but 8K up to the top. If you miss that again on an exhausted trend, you're going to have to make the decision. Are we going to break up and continue higher? Or are we going to break down and reverse off this level lower? So, there's always going to be another opportunity. Do not feel like, there's a shortage of opportunities, because there's a lot of them, but a lot of them require patience. And even if like over here today, if we plant a low intraday, it's okay, whatever. I might miss the initial move up, which I think can even happen. But if it moves up to, let's say here, I think I'll have enough time to make a decision that I could place a limit order right here, or even for a sweep, and then go higher from that. So I'll place a limit wherever I see active, if it has to be aggressive, if it has to be a little looser, whatever the case may be, and I'll be able to react accordingly. So yeah, guys, want to leave you with that. Appreciate you guys hopping on a late stream. I'm gonna get off. I don't know if you want to hang around a little longer, Dal, but appreciate you as well. Always love your insights. If you don't have access to exactly what we're looking at, the levels and all that shit, you guys know what to do. Get access to that. I will see you guys in the next.